Hi everyone, welcome to our resources from the content integration team video today. Just to kind of let you know who everybody is, Vernica Colley is our content integration specialist for ELA. Jenny Sexton is our content integration specialist for mathematics. I am Renee Shirley Stevens, I'm the content integration specialist for science, and Jennifer Zumbaris is the content integration specialist for social studies. And you will hear from all of us today.
In an effort to organize our content and to make sure that everyone has access to the resources, professional development links, and other documents that the content integration specialists have created, we have a web page called the Integrated Instructional Supports for All Students webpage, and you can get there by going to the Teaching and Learning webpage, then clicking on Curriculum and Instruction, and then clicking on Integrated Instructional Supports for All Students. You can also find a link to this page on all of the content area web pages.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, the content integration specialist got together and we all worked on this video about virtual supports for struggling learners. And it contains some resources that can be used in lessons. And then it also goes through and details how those resources can be applied to lessons for our different content areas. So within this video, you'll find some resources and also some example lessons applying those resources that we're talking about. So to go along with that video that we were just discussing, we put together this PDF companion resource that has links to the different resources that we discussed in the video. You will find this link available to get to this PDF in the companion document that goes along with this video.
We have partnered with GPB to offer broadcast programming and accompanying digital resources that are aligned to Georgia State standards to provide that continued learning at home. And as part of this Georgia Home Classroom, the DOE has identified key skills for children getting ready for kindergarten through third grade. And these skills will help families understand what children have already learned and can expect to learn when they get back to school. And these guides are available in English and Spanish to view and download. And for activities for families and caregivers to do with early learners, make sure that you check out the Getting Georgia Ready at Home guides. And the pages contain so many examples of simple and fun activities that you can do with your children at home and in your community that can help them begin building skills for kindergarten through third grade. And there are no special resources required to access the lessons. Also, the content integration specialists and other content leaders at the DOE have provided and developed remote learning plans for teachers and parents. And these Georgia Standards of Excellence-based plans were specifically designed for use during these uncertain times as support for school districts, administrators, teachers, and parents who are working tirelessly to provide students with quality content. And the plans are so easy to use, and they include both plugged and unplugged activities. Also, Let's Learn Georgia is a series of video lessons for grades K through 5 taught by Georgia's teachers and aligned to the Georgia Standards of Excellence. And these lessons cover English language arts, fine arts, mathematics, physical health and wellness, science, and social studies. And these lessons are updated often, so add this web page as one to check frequently. And also, if you're a Georgia teacher who has an idea for a great video lesson, or you already have a great video lesson that you would be willing to share, please be sure to submit your idea.
So one of the other resources that all 4 content integration specialists work together on is this Equity Instructional Planning Look For document. And this document was designed to assist teachers in evaluating their lessons for the basics of equity as they're planning the lessons, or going back and looking at lessons that they've already planned to see if they contain these things, these big ideas that we want them to be looking for, that really relate to the basics of equity. And you'll notice it's broken into 4 areas: content standards, multiple modalities, coherent instruction, and our individualized education programs. And it has a little bit of information about what teachers should be looking for to meet this area of need. And then it also has some suggestions for student supports and some links to find more information. This document can be found through the teacher resource link in SLDS, in the essential toolkit in the need to know bucket. It can also be accessed using the link on this slide and the companion document that goes along with this video.
Hello, I am Fernika Kali, and I will share with you the updates for English Language Arts. The first bit of information I wanted to share is about the ELA standards review process. Currently, the ELA team is still in the planning phase of the ELA standards review process. And as we receive updates on the standards review process, we will be sure to let everyone know. Next, we have some dyslexia pilot implementation updates. To help guide the work with the dyslexia pilot, I wanted to review the important Senate Bill 48 dates. So on December 1, 2019, we were to release the Dyslexia Informational Handbook, and that has been completed. By December 30th, 2019, we were supposed to collaborate with the Georgia Professional Standards Commission to create a dyslexia endorsement program. That has been completed as well. By July 1st, 2020, K-3 screening policies for students who have characteristics of dyslexia, other disorders, or both, that's the state board rule, that was supposed to be created, and we're currently in progress with that. We had some revisions to undertake, and we are almost finished with that process. During the 2020-2021 school year, we were to begin our 3-year dyslexia pilot program, and we are right in the middle of that, so we are in progress. By December 1st, 2022, we were to have, or are to have, a completed evaluation of the dyslexia pilot results, and that is currently in progress. And instead of waiting until the end of the 2022 deadline, we decided that it would be best to provide dyslexia implementation updates or briefs in preparation of that time, so districts and schools are not waiting until the last minute to get the information that they'll need to help make informed decisions regarding screening and interventions for dyslexia. And then by the 2024-2025 school year, we are to screen all students K-3 for characteristics of dyslexia. So that is our ultimate goal. So I wanted to provide an overview of the support that we have been receiving from our evaluation team, the Region Center 6 in the University of North Carolina, and also SREB, or the Southern Region Education Board. So they've provided us with an implementation analysis brief, and this was based on the interviews with the pilot districts in June of 2020, and I'll talk about those results with you today. And also, they have been working on resources to help districts on an ongoing basis as well. And then this 2020-2021 year, they have planned to interview the pilot districts again this month and in the month of June, in May and June of 2021. And also, they will be preparing a 2020-2021 implementation analysis brief, and that will be out in the fall of 2021. And then, of course, continuing to provide additional resources for districts and they label them as rapid response documents. So let's start by talking about the approaches to implementation. So Senate Bill 48 gave pilot districts flexibility to determine their goals and implementation design that best fit their local context. So approaches to implementation look different from district to district. So one district decided to start with one school with the pilot and expand to others throughout the duration of the pilot. 3 districts started screening with 3 schools and decided to expand to other schools later on. 2 districts started with all elementary schools, so they started to screen in all elementary schools. And at this time in June of 2020, 1 district was still planning. And most districts plan to rely on their existing staff, but 1 district did use some money to hire additional staff. And I just want to make sure that we are clear that this is all during COVID. So this time period of June 2020 has definitely changed from then until now. And then screening, Senate Bill 48 requires that we screen all students in kindergarten through grades 3 for characteristics of dyslexia. And most of the pilot districts plan to continue using their existing tools for universal screening to fulfill this requirement. And districts named multiple screening tools. The most common were MAP, that was used by 5 districts, and DIBELS was used by 3 districts. In regards to intervention, Senate Bill 48 requires that pilot districts provide students who are identified through screening as having characteristics of dyslexia with an IDA-approved reading program and interventions and staffed by teachers trained in structured literacy. So most districts plan to use multiple interventions to fulfill this requirement, but most interventions were commercial programs, and some could be considered multisensory language programs, which is mentioned in the International Dyslexia Association's stance on providing literacy instruction to students with dyslexia and characteristics of dyslexia. And districts named over 20 different interventions. So the thing is, the IDA does not have a list of approved reading programs and interventions, so this posed some difficulty for our districts as well. Senate Bill 48 also requires that pilot districts administer regular assessments to monitor students receiving intervention. And districts during this time of June 2020 were still developing their plans for progress monitoring and database decision making, and their existing plans for data collection and analysis cycles vary greatly between the districts. So some of the challenges that arose with the pilot districts during this time, of course, there were challenges related to COVID-19. Districts were not yet certain of their reopening plans during this time. They were not sure how they were going to screen these students, regardless of how they began the year. So they were trying to figure out their screening processes. And then, of course, lack of internet access for students who were at home, and how they were going to screen those students who were not coming to school face to face. Some of those other challenges outside of COVID-19 were challenges in building educator and district capacities. So the educator capacity was a big one, and also district capacity was a big one. In terms of educator capacity, just understanding what Senate Bill 48 requires, understanding the MTSS process, understanding how to screen, understanding how to understand which interventions would be best for students with characteristics of dyslexia, as well as implementing those interventions. And then in regards to district capacity, just guides for communications with parents. How are we going to inform our parents about this requirement? And then also they were requesting a list of screening tools that Godot could help them with while they are trying to select appropriate screening tools. The full implementation brief and other resources to support Georgia's dyslexia pilot program can be found in the red box with the arrow on our dyslexia webpage, www.godot.org/dyslexia. And if you look under the section that says Georgia's Dyslexia Pilot Program, you will find the links to those resources there. And once you click there, this is a screenshot of what the pages look like on the Southern Region Education Board page in the goldenrod, and the Region 6 Comprehensive Center RC6 page is in the orange. So that's what the information looks like. Also, in conjunction with our MTSS team, we have put together a dyslexia resources one-pager, and this is the first one of these one-pagers. And this one is all about links to key Godot resources for dyslexia and MTSS. So we have a lot of districts asking questions about how does dyslexia fit into the MTSS process, and this document is a great place to start digging into information and start having those conversations about the connections between dyslexia and MTSS. And ELA professional learning. The ELA team is right at the end of a writing series called Multi-Genre Projects in conjunction with the Red Clay Writing Project. And Dr. Hillary Hughes is the facilitator of this Multi-Genre Projects professional learning series. And the last session will be held on May 11th. And you can register at the link that is on the screen. And if you also click on this picture, it'll take you to the registration for this session as well. And the time is 4 o'clock until 5:30 p.m. And again, the last session is on May 11th, 2021. We also have a new episode in our What's Your Story podcast series. In this episode, we are talking to Fifi Handy, the director and CEO of Page Turners Make Great Learners. And this is an organization that is founded on providing access to awesome literature to students all over the state of Georgia. And she has virtual offerings for her services as well as face-to-face options in the future. So if you are interested in getting to know Fifi Handy and learning about her work in our literacy world, please take a listen to our podcast. Also, the ELA team is planning our virtual summer literacy conference, and the theme is literacy and the whole child. So please save the date for July 27th through 29th, 2021. And if you click on the flyer, it will take you to a page that you can pre-register for the conference to make sure that you receive the newest updated information about the conference as it comes out. Also, the dyslexia endorsement programs have been updated as well. Again, the dyslexia endorsement programs are those Georgia Professional Standards Commission approved dyslexia endorsement programs, and we are now up to 13 dyslexia endorsement programs. So if you or any other educators you know are interested in receiving the dyslexia endorsement, these are great colleges, universities, and RESAs to start with. Also, our A Deep Dive into Dyslexia series is continuing. We started this series in the fall, and we have continued it through the spring as well. So on March 12th, we hosted Dr. Jennifer Lindstrom on a topic or on a session called What is Dyslexia and What Do We Know About It? She came back to us again on April 23rd and talked about how to screen for dyslexia and other reading difficulties. And then lastly, she will host us again on May 7th at 10 a.m. and she'll talk about the intersection of teacher preparation, the science of reading, and dyslexia. So you can register for the sessions by clicking the register link below. Also, if you have missed any sessions, all of the sessions live on our ELA professional learning community on EdWeb. So you can click the link, the EdWeb banner here, to join the English Language Arts EdWeb community to gain access to those recordings and resources. So once you click in and you're looking for the dyslexia professional learning resources, if you click on resource library, and then you would just click on dyslexia professional learning and resources, and then it will open up the folder to all of the dyslexia professional learning and resources. Again, also in that resource library, you won't only find dyslexia professional learning and resources, you will find K-12 professional learning and resources, K through 5 professional learning and resources, 6 through 12 professional learning and resources, and our determined learners or our all learners professional learning and resources. Also, we receive a lot of invitations from the community regarding dyslexia professional learning opportunities, and all of those dyslexia professional learning opportunities can be found on our godot.org/dyslexia webpage in the section that says professional learning opportunities. And this flyer is updated monthly with new invitations from the community, the International Dyslexia Association of Georgia, and others as they host dyslexia professional learning opportunities for teachers, as well as parents and other advocates for dyslexia. And if you click the April 15th hyperlink, you'll be able to find the newest iteration of the dyslexia flyer. Also, we have an ELA listserv that you can take advantage of. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with our ELA community, please feel free to join the listserv that corresponds to your area of need. We have listservs for K-5, 6, 8, 9, 12, for English Language Arts administrators, district support, as well as RESA support. Also coming soon will be a listserv for dyslexia as well. And lastly, as always, if you need to contact the ELA team, our information is here. Dr. Brianne Houston serves as our ELA program manager. I, again, am Fernica Colley, the ELA content integration and special education specialist, and Anisha Donald is our elementary program specialist. Also, please feel free to follow us on Twitter at Godot ELA. And now I will turn this over to Janice to provide mathematics updates.
My name is Janice Sexton, and I would like to share with you the mathematics updates for this presentation. Right now in the mathematics community, you're probably engaging in conversations that evolve around the proposed mathematics standards. I wanted to take this time to begin by sharing with you the standards revision implementation plan. The goal is to have the standards adopted by the state board in late spring of 2021. We have begun professional learning for our leaders and administrators, district and school leaders, beginning in spring 2021, and it will extend through summer of 2022. Resource revisions, that is updating all of our current mathematics curriculum resources, that includes the curriculum maps and the grade level and course overviews, will be revised beginning in summer of 2021 and extending to summer 2022. Simultaneously, we will be holding professional learning around the newly adopted standards once they are adopted by the state board for all teachers across the state of Georgia. That includes pre-service teachers as well, special education teachers, any teachers of mathematics. That will begin in summer of 2021 and extend to summer of 2022, with implementation with students beginning in fall of 2022. Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards evolve around key big ideas, and that's kindergarten through 12th grade or kindergarten through high school. If you look at this image that you see here on the screen, it shows the big ideas that span all the way from kindergarten through high school, beginning with the foundation, which is the mathematical practices. This set of standards also includes mathematical modeling as a big idea, numerical reasoning, patterning and algebraic reasoning, geometric and spatial reasoning, and data and statistical reasoning. Notice how those big ideas will begin with students in kindergarten, and students will learn concepts under those big ideas all the way through their high school careers. In K-5, there is a focus on measurement reasoning. And as we move into middle school, we begin with probability reasoning in 7th grade, and that extends through high school. And in 8th grade, we begin with functional and graphical reasoning, which extends to high school. It's important to understand the structure of the standard. So if you would look closely at the document that you see here on the screen, we just talked about the big ideas that stretch from kindergarten through high school. Notice at the very top, the large umbrella, so to speak, is the big idea, which for this example is numerical reasoning. So you have the big ideas and also a summary of concepts within that section. Falling underneath the big idea is the standard. The standard is the piece that students have to master by the end of their grade or course. It's a larger conceptual idea that students work towards as they are engaging in meaningful learning experiences. And to support the mastery of the standards, you have the expectations, and sometimes referred to as learning objectives, and they serve as a breakdown of the standards in an instructional progression. It's important to note that these expectations or learning objectives are not meant to be taught as isolated skills, but actually as cluster of conceptual ideas that provide a scaffold for students as they're working towards mastery of the overall standard. To help support instruction, we've provided the teacher teams actually who worked on the standards document provided the evidence of student learning column, which gives a breakdown and an explanation of each of the expectations so that you can see how they fit very nicely together, how they can be combined and taught simultaneously, again, instead of teaching them as isolated skills. We'll talk more about other instructional supports that are provided in Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards. Also provided as instructional supports are progressions documents. This one here is a sample of the K-5 progressions document. There's also a 6-8 progressions document that begins with 5th grade and extends through high school. And also a K-12 progressions document will be made available. These documents help educators to see when big ideas or concepts are introduced and how they progress across grade levels. Therefore, when a student is struggling, it allows the teacher to go back and trace to the foundational concepts and skills so that they can address those barriers in learning. It's also a powerful tool, not just for educators, but for parents as well, so that they can see the expectation of concepts for each grade level. Now taking a closer look at the evidence of student learning column. This evidence, the evidence of student learning column has built-in instructional supports and guidance. Guidance telling the educator how far to go with concepts and skills, around the idea that the concept is age and developmentally appropriate. There are examples that are provided. It gives suggestions for strategies and methods that could be introduced as students are engaging in the learning experience. And it also explains the meaning of academic jargon for educators who may need some additional explanation of those academic terms. Eventually, once the standards are approved, we will be able to go in and provide links to videos and lessons so that educators can click and see, well, what does this look like in the state of Georgia? What does this look like in a Georgia classroom, to give additional supports for implementation. The evidence of student learning column has several categories. The first one that I want to mention is relevance and application, and that is important because the overall standards in the root of Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards is learning mathematics through context and applying reasoning as students make sense of the mathematics in context. So the relevance and application just provides the educator with more information of how to connect the concept to real world or real life contexts. Strategies and methods provide suggestions for ways that students can engage and to build their conceptual understanding as they build towards procedural fluency. It is no way intended to be a list of strategies, kind of like a checklist of strategies that every student must use. It's not saying here's one problem, you must solve it in two different ways. No, we want students to be flexible in their thinking. In order to be fluent, there's flexibility that has to be apparent. And so this just provides the educator with different ways to think about solving problems, to think about applying a concept or learning a concept. Terminology is meant for the educator, again, just to explain the academic jargon that may be found within a standard or within a learning objective or expectation. Fundamentals refers to the basics, the almost like prerequisites that students should have in their understanding to have a solid footing, so to speak, as they're learning a particular concept. So as students are working on a concept, if you find that there's a student that is struggling, the educator can look at that particular learning objective or cluster of learning objectives, really identify what is stated about the fundamentals and try to target that piece within small group to better support the student. Another category is age and developmentally appropriate. It explains how the concept relates to this particular grade level, building upon what students have learned in previous grade levels. And lastly, the final category is example, providing example questions that show how, or example mini tasks that show ways to introduce the concept or to discuss the concept within a learning experience. Another instructional support that is provided within the Georgia's K-12 Mathematics Standards document is the strategies document that's available. It focuses mainly on computational strategies for whole numbers. And these strategies for whole numbers can be applied to other numbers such as fractions, decimals, even integers, and rational numbers. And so it just provides educators with different strategies, discussions around student flexibility. Again, in order to be fluent, students must be flexible as well, and that means understanding different ways to solve a problem, understanding the why behind a procedure they may use to solve a problem. That adds to that level of flexibility. So that document is provided just to give the educator more background on place value strategies and how they connect to the U.S. traditional algorithms. So we've spent the first part of the mathematics updates talking about standards. And I want to share with you something really exciting that will support our leaders and teachers across the state of Georgia with understanding and learning about the new standards, and then also being very prepared for implementation come fall of 2022. We have a summer math conference. It's called MathCon, and leading up to our summer math conference, we have several pre-conferences that are happening for our leaders across the state. Already occurred was our district leader pre-conference. It occurred on April 28th. That recording is available on our MathCon webpage, and I will show you that MathCon webpage in a moment. Coming up on May 7th, by the time you hear this recording, it may have already passed, but that recording will be available as well, and all of the resources from there will be available so that you can retrieve that. But that is occurring on May 7th. And then on May 12th, we are rounding up our district mathematics specialists and coordinators to share with them information around mathematical reasoning and reimagining K-12 education, and how does all of that set the foundation for what will be implemented in fall of 2022 with Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards. So we're really excited about those pre-conference. They are a lead up to our MathCon summer conference. The first summer conference is a 2-day conference, and that's for our leaders. So what leaders will hear in the pre-conference will be expounded upon in MathCon for leaders. So we will dive deeper, looking into the concepts and skills that are addressed in Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards. Again, that's a 2-day conference. It's not a 1 day and then repeat on the second day. It's a 2-day from day 1 continues on to day 2. So if a leader is only able to attend 1 day, they will miss a valuable piece of information that they did not receive on day 1. Same thing for the teacher conference, MathCon for Teachers. It is a 4-day conference, each day taking a look at a different big idea and diving deeply into the skills and concepts for each grade level and course. That's beginning July 19th and extends through July 22nd. If a leader or a teacher has to miss a portion of the MathCon conference, no worries. In this day of technology, we are able to capture that information, and it will be housed on our MathCon webpage so that they could go back and watch the recordings they may have missed. But we encourage you to register for MathCon for leaders if you are a leader, and MathCon for teachers if you are a teacher or a teacher leader. Here is our MathCon website. You'll notice when you go to the website, you will be able to click to register for any one of the conferences, whether it's MathCon for leaders or MathCon for teachers. If you want to find out more information about each of those conferences, you'll click on the posters that they have there. So Leader Conference, if you click there, you will find out more information about the conversations that you will engage in as you attend that conference. And then the same thing for the Teacher Conference. Click on the green poster and you can find out more information. MathCon, our summer conferences, as well as our pre-conferences leading up to MathCon, are not the only opportunities for professional learning for leaders and teachers around Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards. So we have our RESA Board of Control meetings where superintendents and district leaders can attend and receive information from our RESA mathematics mentors, as well as the district technical support meetings that are available there. We have our virtual mathematics specialist monthly virtual sessions that began this school year, 2022 to 2021, and will extend through August of 2021 to May 2022. Those monthly virtual sessions will provide a unit by unit look for each grade level and course. And that course those courses for high school will be algebra concepts and connections, geometry concepts and connections, and advanced algebra concepts and connections. But they will be virtual professional learnings led by teachers and teacher leaders from across the state of Georgia to further professional learning for our teachers and our leaders. And then we will have multiple conferences and professional learnings hosted throughout the 2021 and 2022 school year. There are monthly virtual professional learning sessions available for each grade level in several high school courses. Recordings for all of the sessions that have been held during the 2021 to 2022 school year can be found on the Georgia Department of Education's mathematics webpage. That's gadoe.org/mathematics. During the 2021 to 2022 school year, monthly grade level specific sessions were held to offer teachers a better understanding of each of the standards presented in each grade level and high school course. We encourage all teachers throughout the state to participate in these enriching professional learning sessions. Here's an example of the course catalog that provides direct links of recordings for each grade level and specific high school course. We encourage all teachers in all grade levels and high school courses to view these recordings to gain a better insight on evidence-based strategies for teaching and learning in mathematics. Additional sessions will be added to the video playlist throughout the course of the 2021 and 2022 school year that explain the expectations for each grade level and course aligned to the newly proposed mathematics standards. Again, we encourage all teachers and teacher leaders to participate. An available resource that is available now, I should say, that will support implementation as we go into the new school year, especially as we think about how to address possible learning loss of our students as a result of COVID-19. We encourage you to visit our guides for effective mathematics instruction. The original title was 2020 because they were developed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but they are still very much relevant now. The structure of these guides for effective mathematics instruction helps teachers and teacher leaders to identify possible gaps in learning for students through the use of diagnostic assessment so that we can meet students where they are, but make a plan to not leave them there. And within that plan, identifying evidence-based or research-informed instructional practices and strategies to implement to support student learning as they engage in the grade level or course content. Mentioned earlier in this presentation was Georgia Home's Classroom and the K-12 remote learning plans. Highlighting the mathematics remote learning plans right now, you'll find that the structure that is discussed within our guides for effective mathematics instruction supports the implementation of the learning plans for mathematics as it includes the diagnostic assessment as well as evidence-based and research-informed instructional practices. Our most current digital learning plans include lessons from Desmos. So as teachers are engaging and using technology for instruction, they can utilize Desmos in the digital learning plans or remote learning plans that we have for mathematics that lays out an instructional guide for Desmos lessons that relate to the current GSE mathematics standards. These digital learning plans will eventually be updated to align to Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards once those standards have been approved by the state board. Desmos is a free resource that teachers can use to engage in meaningful and engaging mathematics classroom activities. You do have to sign up for Desmos. You have to create an account, but again, it's completely free. And it already has classroom activities and lessons that can be implemented by teachers. You can search by concepts to find the lessons and activities that have already been created by whether they are members of the Desmos community or teachers within the state that have developed lessons. And again, our digital learning plans curated lessons from Desmos and put it in the format that aligns to the guides for effective mathematics instruction. Currently available as a resource as well are the mathematics professional learning videos. What do mathematics standards look like in the classroom? And these videos are available for kindergarten through high school. Currently, they align to the GSE mathematics standards, but they are being revised during our resource revision to align to the Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards, including the learning objectives associated with each standard. These videos are available on georgiastandards.org, and you would just click the math button and go to your grade band of choice, whether it's K-5, 6, 8, or high school. In partnership with GPB, we have Let's Learn Georgia, where you can find Let's Learn Georgia Mathematics. Within the Let's Learn Georgia Mathematics series, there are videos for students to watch and engage in mathematics concepts that are taught by teachers from across the state of Georgia. These activities are engaging and conceptual in nature, intended again for the student or parent audience. In extension of the Let's Learn Georgia campaign, we have the Make Mathematics Count Georgia campaign that started. Its target audience is parents, and it's meant to support parents with understanding the expectations of teaching and learning in mathematics. This particular resource includes videos for kindergarten through high school as well, going through the different concepts for each grade level that students will learn as they have opportunities to engage in meaningful mathematics experiences within their classrooms. If you're in need of more resources, we curated over 1,300 resources towards the end of the 2019-2020 school year. These resources are meant to continue learning in different settings, whether it's a remote setting or in-person setting. There are tasks and activities for kindergarten through high school, and that includes all courses in high school. Activities are meant to be we have a set of activities that are hands-on activities that students can engage in, and others that are technology-based activities that students can engage in. We currently have the mathematics frameworks that are available. These are our state curriculum resources. Currently, they align to the mathematics GSE standards, but during the summer 2021 to summer 2022 resource revision process, all components of the frameworks will be revised to align to Georgia's K-12 mathematics standards. We also have the Georgia Numeracy Project, which is a free and optional resource to address foundational numeracy. This is a great resource to identify any gaps in learning that students may have through the use of the diagnostic assessments that are within this resource. And then there are intervention tasks and activities that align directly to the diagnostic assessments to address those gaps in learning. The basis of this resource is a strength-based approach, looking to see the proficient strategies and number knowledge of each student so that, again, you can meet them where they are but not leave them there. The Georgia Numeracy Project is a great resource for kindergarten through 7th grade, and to extend that to farther into middle school and then into high school, we are developing the Secondary Numeracy Project. The Secondary Numeracy Project is focused on deepening students' understanding of numbers and their ability to use numbers to solve problems in the following domains: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, proportions, ratios, as well as relations and functional reasoning, patterning and algebraic reasoning, statistics and probability reasoning, as well as geometric, spatial, and measurement reasoning. The last resource I'd like to share with you is Georgia's Mathematics Strategy Toolkit to address learner variability. This will be another instructional support or another toolkit, so to speak, to support educators as they are addressing any gaps in learning that students may have. The toolkit will include evidence-based strategies to help support students with their mathematics, and also emphasizing the mathematics habits of mind, which are the mathematical practices. Here's a closer look at our virtual office. Please visit our virtual office for any updates or information. You can also send us an email through the virtual office to any member of our team, but I will also provide our email addresses on the next slide. So here's a list of the members of the mathematics team. Dr. Leah Snell is our program manager. Dr. Carla Swetna is our secondary mathematics program specialist. Michael Warnicki is our elementary mathematics program specialist. And again, my name is Janice Sexton, and I am the special education content integration specialist. Please take a moment to follow us on Twitter if you are not already doing so, and we hope to see you at MathCon.
Hi everyone, this is Renee Shirley Stevens. I'm the Science Content Integration Specialist, and I'm here to talk about science updates. So the first thing I want to talk about is our instructional segments for science. These instructional segments are designed around the 5E model. They are available through SLDS, TRL, Essential Toolkit, and they are available on georgiastandards.org. And these instructional segments are designed based on our GSE science standards. They're available for K-8, environmental science, biology, physical science, earth systems, physics, and chemistry. And now they have been updated to contain a student support chart. And really what it is it goes through and it looks at how we can support students with the lesson and the content as they make their way through these lessons. Of course, this is not all inclusive of everything that we can do to support our students, but this is a good starting point. And I've been told by teachers that this also is a really good way for them to start having conversations about supporting their students in their classrooms. So let's take a look at what these support charts look like and how we can find them. So each of our instructional segments starts out with a page that looks like this, where it has the standards and the performance expectations. And within that performance expectations for instructions piece, there is now a link that says additional notes on student supports. When you click that link, it takes you to a chart that contains student supports. Let's see what that looks like. So this is an example of the student supports chart. So you will see that it has some general supports, and then it also has supports that are specific to the lesson. And it is broken down in that 5E model just like the lesson. So if a teacher were to notice that they were having some trouble with the engage section or needed some ideas of how to support students in that engage section, then they could come to this chart and look at the engage section and see some student support ideas. So the next resource I want to share with you are these self-evaluation checklists. These checklists are designed around our GSE standards, and they're really a way for students to start to take ownership of their learning. They are designed off of our GSE science standards, and they are designed using student-friendly language, but we did try to include the science and engineering practices and the cross-cutting concepts here, as well as the content, because those are also important for students to understand as they're acting and thinking like scientists. And these are really about students being able to identify what they know and what they don't know and give them goals to work towards. So there are examples K-8 and then for some of our high school courses as well. And of course for K-2, it's really designed to be more of a conversation piece between students and teachers, and for the teachers to help students start to learn what they know and what they don't know so that they can identify it as they move through their school career. And then for the grades above second, it's designed more for students to start checking off. And you can see here on this example, there are dates where students can identify when they check this off. And I use something very similar to this in my classroom. And I would have my students write all over it. It would be something, like you need to remember this about this. And they'd make themselves a little note about it on the side. And we really started focusing on how to do it at the beginning of the school year. And as we moved through our units, students were more and more able to do it on their own. And it really became a piece of rich conversation between myself and my students, because I was able to say, hey, when we're working on labs, have your self-evaluation checklist out. And I could go around as I'm talking to them about what they're doing with their lesson or what they're working on. I could also look at their self-evaluation checklist and see what they thought they knew and what they thought they didn't. And it also gave me a way to compare what the students thought they knew versus their formative assessment. So I could see, did they line up or did they not? And then I could try to figure out why. And it was also a way for me to boost their confidence, because we get to quiz time, or we're talking about a summative assessment, such as a test. I could say, they'd come in and they'd be like, I'm really nervous about this. And I could say, hey, pull out your self-evaluation checklist. Let's talk about what you think you know about this. And they could pull it out and we could go over it. And I'm like, you've checked all this stuff off. You've got all your little reminder notes here. Take just a minute and study. And they felt better because they had the ability to say, I knew this. And so this is just a really good way to start giving students ownership of their own learning. This was also a good conversation piece if I had a student who came for tutoring. This would let me talk to them about what they needed extra help on. And we could look at their self-evaluation checklist together, and we could talk through it and kind of go from there. So, like I said, there are examples for K-8, and then for some of our high school courses, biology, chemistry, earth systems, environmental science, and physics, I believe. So the next resource I want to share with you is actually a video series. It's called Reading and Writing in Science, The Perfect Combination. And this was actually done in partnership with Dr. Jody Wheeler-Toppin. She recorded the videos for us with a lot of suggestions about how to help students with literacy in the classroom. So this video series contains, I believe it's 17 videos broken up, some of them really focusing in on elementary school, some of them focusing on middle and high, and then some of them focusing more on K-12. And they really go through and show you how to use different strategies to help students with reading and writing in the science classroom. They're all around 10 minutes a piece, so they're not a super long time commitment, but they are packed full of strategies that can be used to help students in the classroom with reading and writing in science. So the next resource I want to talk to you about is our remote learning plans. We kind of discussed this a little bit earlier in the video, and I know that some of the other content integration specialists have talked about this because these are resources that we all have available through our GPB partnership. These are our remote learning plans. And I wanted to just show you the science one so you can know what to expect in all of the plans. So on this page, you'll see that there's a big idea and a topic, and then it aligns to standards. At the top is our science standard, and then it also has connections to other content areas. Frequently that's ELA, but we do have some that connect to math. So that's the first part. So the next part of the remote learning plans is the 5E lesson. And they are designed the same way our instructional segments are, around the 5E model. They all start with a phenomenon because that's a science thing. It's part of our 3D science instruction. They are based around and do have the science and engineering practices and the cross-cutting concepts embedded within the lesson. There's also an unplugged section. So when you look through the engaged piece, you'll notice sometimes there are pieces that require students to have access to the internet. But we also wanted to address problems that we, of course, know about around the state where some students don't have access to the internet. So each one contains an unplugged section where it talks about how you can meet the needs of the students who don't have access to the internet so they can still engage with these remote learning plans. So the last piece of the remote learning plan is the lesson goals checklist, and it states the standard again, and then it has a checklist for what students and parents should expect the students to be able to do at the end of this lesson. So when they look at this, students in the upper grade levels can evaluate, did I get this from this lesson? Did I gain understanding of this? And then in the lower grade levels, parents can talk with students and see if they understand this. And it provides students and parents a way to then ask teachers, hey, what about this? Because I don't feel like I've really met this this box enough to be able to check it off that I understand it. The next piece is evidence of student success, which talks a little bit about how they show mastery of the different components. Some of them have formative and summative assessments in them. Some of the formative and summative assessments are embedded throughout the lesson. It depends on how they were written. They were written by teachers in the state of Georgia. And then we have our student learning support, which goes through and kind of talks about some general supports that we can use to help our students in this remote learning environment. And then there are some supports specific to this particular lesson that might be beneficial for students. And just keep in mind when you're looking at these remote learning plans that they're not a one-day lesson. They're not pick it up, do all these things, and you're done with it. They're a multi-day lesson for students. So another resource are these choice board examples. They are available for kindergarten through 8th grade, and then biology, chemistry, environmental science, physical science, and physics. These are kind of designed to be a choice board that addresses a specific standard. So when you go to one of these choice boards, you'll find the standard that it addresses, and then some instructions on how to use it, and some choices for students to work their way through. They can choose what order they do the choice board in, with a final assignment at the end to kind of show that they understand what they got out of the choice board. This document also contains science and engineering practice descriptions to kind of see what we're working towards with students and how they're thinking and acting like scientists in these choice boards. So one of our new resources are our science teacher communities. These are hosted through Godot Communities. And we have science teacher communities for K2, 3, 5, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, high school biological science, and high school physical science. And these are all hosted on that Georgia DOE community space. But they also all have a virtual specialist, a teacher, or instructional coach in the state of Georgia that teaches or works with science education. And these virtual specialists are amazing. They have put together webinars that are about topics that teachers in our state are interested in. There are webinars about feedback, webinars about assessment, some about different lessons, different phenomenon that you can use. Just all kind of ideas are available in this space, and they all have a discussion board where teachers can ask questions and get feedback. So it's a really nice collaboration space. We do post webinars once a month from our virtual specialist. Some of them are pre-recorded and we just post them, and some of them are live. the live ones, we have people sign up and join live. We do record them and then we post them on the communities as well for people who are not able to attend live. So this is a really rich collaboration space. So we're encouraging teachers to join this so that they can jump in on the collaboration. And there is a link on this slide that will take you to the space where you need to sign up. Just make sure that when you do sign up, it asks for your email address. Make sure you use your work email because that is how they're going through and approving people and making sure that they are actually teachers in the state of Georgia. So Georgia DOE Science does have a newsletter. It comes out a few times a year. We use a listserv to send it out, and it contains all kinds of information that's relevant to science teaching in the state of Georgia. So we really encourage people to join our listserv so that when we send out a newsletter, teachers are getting it. You can send a blank email to any of these email addresses depending on what grade levels teachers teach, and then we will just send out our newsletter. I promise we will not blow up anyone's email. We do just use this to send out either really important information and our newsletter to teachers in the state. So another resource I want to talk to you about are our PL modules. Science actually has 2 self-paced PL modules within SLDS. So you do have to sign up with these through your SLDS once you're logged in. The first one is Introduction to 3D Instruction, which has been around for a little while. And you get this nice, cool badge when you complete it. But it really goes through and it talks about what 3D instruction is and why it's important and how it looks. But we've come out with a new one, our 3D Science Design and Supports. This is really kind of the next step where it goes through and it talks about designing a 3D lesson. And there's really some conversation about a lesson that the teacher is already doing and how they can turn that into a 3D lesson. And then it also talks about supporting our students as they're working through this 3D design and thinking and acting like scientists. So the next resource I want to talk to you about is our Science Professional Learning playlist. And our Science Professional Learning playlist actually started back at the beginning of the pandemic when teachers didn't have time to dedicate to live professional learning. And they really wanted something that was pre-recorded that they could watch when they had a chance. And so we started by just recording some videos that could be used as professional learning, where we talked a little bit about supporting our students, what is 3D science, using phenomenon in your classroom. But then we actually expanded it, and this contains the professional learning that we have done all throughout the last year. So I know I showed you our PL playlist just a minute ago, and I told you that it had upcoming trainings as well as things that we've done in the past. So I just kind of wanted to give you a preview of the upcoming professional learnings that we have going on. So this summer we do have a few new ones, but we also have some like getting back to basics 3D science stuff that teachers might be interested in for a refresher, or if you have new teachers in your district, this might be something that they're interested in. We also have something about our 3D science cross-cutting concepts. We're doing something in partnership with ESOL, so we're talking about science and the English language, and then we are also doing an integration kind of workshop where teachers can come to the first part and the second part, and we're talking about putting our contents together. So I was talking just a little bit about this integration piece of our professional learning, and I have partnered with my colleague, Jennifer Zumberis, who is the Social Studies Content Integration Specialist, to put together this two-part series. The first part is really about choosing standards that fit together well and what that really means and how that looks, and it's like the start of the planning piece. And then part 2 is actually looking at a lesson, and then teachers will have time to design their own lesson. So this really is a workshop. Teachers could come, and the first part they will choose standards, and the second part they will start designing a lesson. So this is something that's really cool and really interactive, and feel free to, have your teachers click on this link and find it and sign up. I would encourage them to come to both parts if they can. So I also want to introduce you to some additional resources that teachers might find helpful. The GST Phenomenon Bank is a list of phenomenon. It can be searched by standard, by grade, and it has phenomenon that Georgia science teachers have submitted to GSTA. So this is really useful if your teachers are looking for a phenomenon to start a unit, or if they need a new phenomenon, or if they just want to change things up a little bit. It's a really cool collection of phenomenon that meet the needs of our GSE science standards. Then STEM Teaching Tools is really awesome because it contains all kinds of different briefs about different things that science teachers are going to come across in their classrooms, and it goes through and talks a little bit about each thing, and then provides some ideas to help teachers address that topic. And then finally, the Framework for K-12 Science Education is the book that contains the research that our GSE science standards are based on. So it really goes in depth into 3D science instruction, and has a lot of really useful information about science education. So you can download that book for free using the link here. And these are all really super helpful for science educators. So of course we also have new resources in progress, and we are soon going to release our guide for effective science instruction for all students, and it's going to cover how to engage students with science and how to accelerate their learning. It'll have things about 3D science in practice with some examples. It'll have some formative assessment examples. It talks about engagement and student ownership. And then at the end, it's going to have our standards progression that starts with kindergarten and goes all the way through 8th grade, which shows the connections to high school. So this is going to be a really, really rich document, and it should be out soon. So thanks so much for joining me today to talk about science updates. I just want to let you know who we all are on the Godot science team, and let you know that you can reach out to any of us if you need help finding a resource, if you've got questions. We're here to support you. Amanda Bice is the science program manager, Keith Crandall is the science program specialist, and I am Renee Shirley Stevens, the content integration and special education specialist for science. Our email addresses are linked here, so you can always shoot us an email. And the only other thing I would encourage you to do is follow us on Twitter at Godot Science, because we do release different information there. When we release a new resource, we try to tweet that we've released it. Sometimes there's other information sent that way as well. And always check out our Godot Science website, which is linked here as well, to find more information about what all we have available.
Hello, this is Jennifer Zumberis. I'm the Social Studies and Special Education Content Integration Specialist, and I'm here with your Social Studies updates. The first thing that I want to show you today is our Georgia Social Studies Virtual Hub. You can get to it by going to www.godot.org. Normally, when we're doing a presentation, we always use a title along with our hyperlink and not the hyperlink by itself. However, this hyperlink is so important that it's one I want you to know by heart and have added to your favorites. Godot.org has everything you could possibly need for any content related to the Georgia Department of Education, all in that one link. So we want you to make sure that's a link that you know and love. The first one that you see on this page in our virtual hub is the virtual field trips. This link takes you directly to a Google Doc that lists all of the virtual field trips that we know of currently that align to our social studies GSE. This is a very valuable tool for you to use face-to-face or virtually. It's a great thing to share with teachers, but also with students and their families for them to be able to use when they're not in school. The next link you see is for our Ideas Ready to Use webinar series. This series took place last spring, but is full of lots of ideas that we think are very relevant today and every day. The last link that you see is for our social studies curriculum page. Once you go to that Godot.org page, there's lots of things to choose from. This link takes you directly to the social studies portion. As I mentioned previously, last spring we recorded an Ideas Ready to Use webinar series. During those 6 weeks, we recorded webinars for 14 grade levels and content. Each webinar is 20 minutes or less, and we covered a variety of topics. There's distance learning ideas for choice boards, for read alouds, for content integration. When we created these lessons, we were thinking of teachers who were teaching in a virtual setting, teachers who were not able to be face-to-face with their students. However, in those lessons, we gave lots and lots of strategies that are still relevant today, whether you're in a face-to-face or a virtual setting. You can access the playlist or the recording for all of those videos using the link on your screen or the link from the handout, or also by going to our Social Studies program page on Godot.org. The playlist and the PowerPoints for all of the webinars are also saved on EdWeb in the PLC resource libraries. There's a PLC for every single grade and course, and each one of those has the recording list and the PowerPoints for every webinar in that series. We've also created a Social Studies virtual learning catalog. We've delivered over 21 virtual grade-specific professional learning workshops this year. All of the workshops are housed for you on the playlist that you see below. As I mentioned before, all of our virtual professional learning is housed on a YouTube playlist. There are 3 sessions in particular that I think might be of interest to you and to your teachers. The first one that you see is They Aren't Getting It, Methods to Engage, Excite, and Empower Struggling Learners. This is intended for a K-5 audience, but many of the strategies used in this session could be used all the way through middle school and high school. The next session you see is Bright Ideas for Non-Text Sources, Strengthening Literacy Across Social Studies, 6 through 12. Again, this session was geared for 6th through 12th grades. However, there's also powerful information that you could use, I believe, for any grade level. The last one that you see is Game On, Beat the Blahs while upping your social studies game. This session was intended for a K-5 audience, but again, there are many things in this session that you could use for students of all ages. The biggest change in our shift from GPS to GSE for social studies was inquiry. We moved from a focus where students were learning and memorizing social studies to a system where students were actually doing social studies, and they do that through the inquiry method. The first video that you see is Everyday Inquiry in Elementary Social Studies. Inquiry is confusing. It's one of those things you have to see in action to understand how amazing it is and to see the benefits for your students. In this video series, you see examples from 1st grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade classrooms. In these lessons, you get to see students who are engaged and having fun doing social studies. They're taking on the work of historians, geographers, economists, and political scientists. The other cool thing about this video series is each one of the videos comes with the actual lesson plan from the teacher. So you have access to the lesson plan and to all of the resources that were used during that lesson. The next link you see is Marrying Social Studies and ELA, the inquiry method. Again, this is another spotlight on classrooms and what inquiry looks like in the classroom, except this time the focus shifts to middle grades. You get a glimpse of what middle grade social studies looks like, looking specifically at the benefits of integrating social studies and literacy skills in the inquiry process. Some of my absolute favorite resources can be found on www.georgiastandards.org. Again, this is like that very first slide that I talked to you about. This is a link you need to know and love. It needs to be on your favorites and your go-to for all things. Again, it has a link to all of the contents. Of course, in this particular slide, we're talking about social studies. So I want to show you why this link is so amazing. When you go to this link and choose social studies, you go to a grade level, and every single grade level and course has the following, all of these bullets: teacher notes, teacher content videos, a curriculum map, sample units, source sets, and distance learning lessons. And then many of the grades and courses have instructional activity videos and social studies labs. So let me back up and tell you what in the world all of those things mean and why you're going to be so excited about them. The first thing you see are the teacher notes. Again, every single grade, kindergarten through the high school contents, have teacher notes. Teacher notes are going to be a great tool for your teachers, but also to your families. The teacher notes are intended for the teacher or for an adult. What happens when we move from GPS to GSE is there was all this background knowledge that was missing, and we didn't want teachers to have gaps. So the teacher notes have every single standard covered in that grade or course, and it gives all kinds of background information that you might need to teach the subject. It also gives additional resources and additional websites that you can visit for help. This is a great resource for teachers, also for parents who are trying to support their students from home. If you've got a teacher who's brand new to social studies, who's working in as part of an IEP requirement, and they know nothing about the content, this resource will be a lifesaver. The next thing you see are the teacher content videos. Very similar concept. The teachers are talking about different content that's going to be covered throughout the year and how to cover that content in an efficient and exciting way for our students. You also see the curriculum map. Of course, many districts and counties have their own curriculum map that they follow, but each grade level has a recommended curriculum map from Godot as an option to be able to use. Another amazing thing that you're going to love are the next three bullets that you see: the sample units, the source sets, and the distance learning lessons. The sample units are full of lesson plans for that unit. When you go into the unit, you click on it, and it gives many different lesson ideas with differentiation supports and everything you need to teach the lesson. If it says to use a primary source, the primary source is included. If it says to use a graphic organizer, the graphic organizer is included. Everything that you need is there. And the next thing you see are the source sets. The source sets are PowerPoints that you can either print or display for your students. Again, those are things that are used to support the lesson. If we're talking about Benjamin Franklin, for example, as you see on the screen, the source set is going to be full of images, political cartoons, articles, things related to Benjamin Franklin that your students may need as they're going through that unit. The last thing you see are distance learning lessons. These are new and are still being added to the site even as I record this today. The distance learning lessons are intended for students who are not in the classroom with you face-to-face. We're trying to target those students who are virtual and also those students who are virtual but who are not connected digitally to their teachers. We saw over the spring of last year what a disservice that was to so many of our students who had no access to technology. So we wanted to fill those gaps. These distance learning lessons do that. However, if you are in a face-to-face situation or have teachers who are face-to-face or a hybrid of both, these distance learning lessons are still very appropriate in those settings as well, and we'll talk more about what those look like. And down at the bottom, you see the last two things, the instructional activity videos and the social studies labs. Most grades and courses have those, but not all. Those are intended, again, for teacher supports. The instructional activity videos go through multiple strategies that are used to help learning be more accessible for your students. And then the social studies labs are a great culmination to wrap up a unit. As I mentioned, each grade and course has distance learning resources. We're working right now to get at least 3 posted for each grade and course. But why? Why distance learning resources? What we learned last spring was that many of our students who were not in a face-to-face setting were not receiving instruction at all. Many of our students had no access to technology and they were not able to connect with their teachers. So they were given a packet of printed materials that were not equitable to that of their peers. So our hope in the distance learning resources or the distance learning lessons is that we're able to reach all of our learners. In each of these lessons, you'll find a lesson plan that's intended to span over a number of days. All of the resources are included. We also made variations for our students who we call unplugged, who do not have access to technology. Within each lesson plan, there's a lesson for the students who are plugged and have access to technology, but there's an equitable lesson for the students who do not have access to technology. We've also included ideas for differentiation, and every resource mentioned in the lesson is included and ready to print for students. We're so excited to share with you one of our newest resources. We have just published our United States History Student Video Dictionary. Now, what in the world does that mean? Basically, it's 23 short classroom appropriate videos that all support United States history. There are amazing resources here for you to use for teachers, for students, and also to send home to families. They work beautifully in a face-to-face or a digital setting. Each video is closed captioned. It also has transcripts included. So if you're working with students who are not connected to technology, the transcript can be printed for them to look at home. These videos are also unique because they address U.S. history. They can also be used in 4th grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and many of the other high school courses. We do warn you, though, to watch these with discretion first because some of the content may not be appropriate for your students. You know best what's appropriate. We have some great resources that we're working on right now. The first one that you see is a new statewide professional learning for differentiation. It's going to be focusing on grades 6 through 12, really looking at our upper grade learners. The next thing we have coming up are changes to our virtual specialist communities. In the past, we've had virtual specialists for each grade and course, kindergarten through high school with social studies. We normally do a 30-minute webinar once a month tied to whatever units we're predicting the teachers may be studying. This year, we're looking at shaking things up a little bit and giving short, sweet, and to-the-point sessions about 10 minutes in length that teachers can take back and use in their classrooms the very next day. Lastly, you see that we're working on differentiation ideas and resources. We've gone back into all of those units that we talked about on georgiastandards.org, and we're plugging in ideas for differentiation, grades K through 12. Many of them are already posted, but we're looking forward to adding many more, specifically in the middle and upper grades. Are you a member of EdWeb? If not, why? We would love for you to join the social studies PLCs on EdWeb. We have a PLC, as I said, for every grade and every course. Within each PLC, there's a discussion forum. There's a resource library with 5 years worth of resources saved. We also have 5 years worth of webinars for you to go back and view. Definitely something you don't want to miss out on. The great thing about the specific EdWeb PLCs is these are all specific to Georgia and Georgia GSE. The next thing you see is the link. How do you join? You join by clicking the link. This website will take you to a Google document that has every single grade and course and the link to be able to join that PLC. The last link that you see there are the webinar playlist for each grade and course. We would love for you to get connected to the social studies team. Joy Hatcher is our program manager. Joanne Wood is our program specialist. And of course, I'm Jennifer Zumberis, your social studies and special education content integration specialist. You see all of our emails on the screen. Please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can help you. Also, on the right-hand side, you see how you can get connected on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Instagram is unique. It's a teacher takeover account. Every week, a teacher in Georgia takes over the Instagram account and shares the amazing things that they're doing in their classrooms. We would love to see you get connected.
Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone, for Resources Update from the Content Integration team. You can see our email addresses are all linked here on the screen for you. Feel free anytime if you have questions or concerns, something we might be able to help you with, to just reach out to us. And we really appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.